Hey everyone, welcome back to another Creative Finance Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today is all about how I went from grading papers as a middle school English teacher to buying real estate and all the steps in between, what it took, what it looked like, and how I even got into this whole thing. And so I hope that you can walk away with some tangible nuggets here to really think about and look at life a little bit differently. If you're someone that hasn't bought your first rental property yet, or maybe you bought one and you're like, well, how do I get out of the day-to-day of, teaching or any other job that might just be something that you once loved, but it just, the time freedom's not there. For me, the location freedom. And, eventually, the financial freedom, it's huge, right? To be able to, what people talk about, living life on your terms, it's sometimes honestly sweeter than some of the paychecks that you get. And I want to get into that because, if you are listening to this and you do still, have an alarm going off every single morning and maybe even a long commute, like I feel for you. Like I remember the dead of winter, I would have to get up at like 4:30 some mornings if I saw like the night before, like, oh, we've got some heavy snow coming in. And I'd always have to check because at the time I lived it was a normal 45-minute commute, but there were times where I'd have to get up early to be able to make sure that I would get there on time because it would take almost an hour and a half. I remember a couple times taking almost 2 hours to get to school. So it doesn't always have to be that way. Like you don't have to stay at the same place for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. I made it 8 years and I loved my school district. So I think that, it really depends on what you really want, right? Like that's what it comes down to is what do you want? And I think as humans, we don't always allow ourselves that time to dream and truly like reflect on like what would make me happy and can I work towards that goal and what is it that I want? And what happened for me was I met Joe, obviously my husband, but I realized that there was so much more and I wanted to be able to travel. And so I was excited with, the possibility of summers off. But what I learned quickly was that a teacher's salary wasn't exactly something that was going to provide a lot of extra anything, right? And there's a lot of teachers that I know that would pick up side hustles to be able to just support themselves in any way possible. I mean, I did everything right by the book, right? Like I did everything I was supposed to, good grades in high school, went off to college, got my 4-year degree, got my job right out of college, had to go to grad school, 4 years of that. I had to pay out of pocket for that. I even bought a house and yet I was struggling. I was struggling to pay my bills because like life is expensive and it was really hard to pay for extras like $1,000 classes that I had to get in order to be a teacher. So our system's a little out of whack. Nobody teaches this in any of the courses that I've spent tons of thousands of dollars on, right? Like everybody teaches these little principles about whatever it is the subject matter you're studying, right? Like for me, it was a bunch of literature, which I love reading. I still love reading and I love writing. But that wasn't going to allow me to travel with my family, to take time off when I really needed it because, at the end of the day, like you're locked into whatever your employer's time off is. So for me, it was definitely sacrificing, I would say. So sitting down and goal planning and sitting with Joe, and that was really what it was he had the vision. He's always been more of the visionary, I guess, because I'll admit it, for a little while, I almost didn't really dream up much. I was very much like, wake up, go to work, go to school, do this, come home, wash, rinse, repeat. And Joe's always been a dreamer. And, if we, once he started telling me, if we buy these rental properties and we have extra money coming in and we have enough properties, then I'd be able to walk away from my job and we'd have more time together. We could work full time together. We could, help other people, get into rental properties or what have you. And so the visions and the goals changed, but what remained the same was our communication. And so in the beginning, it was let's buy rental properties, right? And then once we had 5, we're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. By then, I had walked away from teaching and I was a stay-at-home mom, 2 kids, and Joe was just never home. He's always working at the dealership. And we were landlords, not really making much money between what we were cash flowing on from burring the properties, right? We bought them, renovated them, put the renters in, and then refied, repeated. And so maintenance and repairs, we're like, what the heck? But that was in 2016 when we discovered the creative financing. And we realized that if we started buying without having to go to the banks, and then we also put in rent to own buyers, like the money would come in from the rent to own buyers. We'd be able to purchase properties without these huge down payments. And we'd be able to like create this snowball effect, which is exactly what we did from 2017 to 2020. By then we had 20 properties. So how did I go from 2008, when I met Joe, I owned my own house, to 2020, now owning 10 properties? It was a lot of mental work. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was a lot of listening to the classics, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. It was tuning into some podcasts. The Real Estate Invest Her podcast was one that I really started getting into. I think it was like 2017, 2018. But in between that time too, I can't forget to mention that when I walked away from teaching, I loved staying home, being the stay-at-home wife, stay-at-home mom, loved that. But there was a little part of me that didn't like not making money. And I think that was because I was such an independent woman before I met Joe. And I had a great career as a teacher, but was like just not what I wanted to continue doing between the politics of the school, the commute, and the way teaching was turning in New York State, when I think I walked away at the perfect time. And so I was like, okay, well, let me start dabbling in selling vitamins. And I also got into selling jewelry. So 2 different MLM companies, didn't quite understand it, but what it taught me was so much about communicating with other people in sales, because I had no sales experience whatsoever. And so I think that was really important too, is that it gave me the confidence to know that if you believe in your product, then other people will then believe in it too. And you can pretty much sell anything if you are into it. And for me, started with the vitamins. Like I said, the Advocare is what it was. I had lost the baby weight, took the products, felt great. Oh my gosh, shared that story with everybody else. And then the jewelry, it was fun. It was pretty, got me out of the house, got me connecting with people. But I also was doing a lot of it online. And that's where like the whole thing came together, was me connecting with people and like loving being in front of a classroom, loving, connecting with children, helping them grow, learn, teach them all those skills. Like the boring monotony of like the day in, the day out, the little simple things of teaching, of like, this is the date. You have to capitalize your first sentence. You need to put a period. You need to be able to write paragraphs, how we interpret things in the books, like all that stuff. It's not the same, but it's similar in the sense of like with real estate investing, like you have to do the same things day in and day out to get the results that you need. And so it's having that perseverance, really, the drive, and then just the passion behind of like who you're helping. I think that's so, so important. So it took some mindset work to be able to stand up to my family a little bit, in a sense of, when the questions were, oh, you're not going back to teaching. Like, what is this real estate you're getting into? Like, you didn't go to school for that. Because again, like I was brought up and you had to go to school to be able to do the things that you're going to be doing as a grown-up, because that's what people really believed in. And so it's going against the grain and just believing in yourself, and knowing that I have Joe. So, even when other people might like question things, like I knew like we were in it together. And I know not everybody has a Joe, and it might just be you listening to this right now. And just know that like I wasn't always there for Joe. Like in the beginning, I was like, cute hobby, like you're buying these ugly houses, have fun with that. And it wasn't until I came into the scene of realizing like, oh, there is a role for me, or, oh, I can help out with this, or, you know what, maybe this is the right path, because the vision of being able to, again, work from anywhere. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed that we'd be living in Florida this soon, because like that just wasn't even on the radar back then. But, you know, I think that it's just so important to know that the sky's the limit, and you can dream and you can make it happen. And so if I were to be a teacher and stumble onto a podcast and hear like a teacher, an investor, like, oh, I couldn't do that. Yes, you can. First of all, yes, you can. So if you're listening and you're wondering, like, I don't know, you can. Absolutely. It all starts with your mindset. And so, you know, get those books like I talked about, and think about your time and how you're spending it. Because there were days where I used to binge watch Bravo TV and Housewives and all of that. And when we started cranking with real estate, that got pushed so far back. Like, I haven't watched an episode in full in I don't know how many years. And I do have a show or two here or there, but and I'm not saying you have to abandon it altogether, but your priorities and your time is really what's going to propel you forward. And when you are sitting at the table with people who are just talking about celebrities and gossip and, you know, news and just the stuff that I just makes my head spin, you're at the wrong table. And you don't have to be rude, but just realize, like, if the next time you're someplace, like, sit at the right table with the right people. So if you're at all curious, then you need to start putting yourself into those rooms, like real estate investing events, Facebook groups, you know, joining online Zooms. There's always trainings. Joe and I are constantly, you know, having at least a once a month training. There's so many ways to plug in these days. And so I think that that's really important too. And so just taking one step at a time, and know that one rental property, like, it could change so much, right? Because one property is proof of concept. One property shows you that you can do it. One property could bring in that little bit of extra cash flow every single month that could help pay for that vacation. And also, one is going to give you that bug to like want to do 2 and then 3 and then 4 and more, right? And so then the sky is really the limit. So just know that it doesn't mean anything if you have a non-financial, non-sales, non-anything background. Like, you can do real estate. And I think that was such a misconception. Like, when Joe even started talking about it, I remember thinking, like, that's for like the people, you know, that own all those buildings, like real estate investors, like downtown Rochester, where we were from. Like, I lived in some of those buildings. Like, those are for those people. That's not true, guys. Like, we are those people. And like, how cool is it that like really great people can own properties and let others move into them and rent them and have like a wonderful place to live, right? Because I think too that there's a huge space in place for competent and just like great humans, compassionate and understanding, but firm, to have housing available for those who need to rent. And in our case, who want to rent until they're able to buy. And there's always room for that in the universe. And so abundance mindset would be like such a great thing in 2025 if you're looking for something to focus on. Like, there's so many people out there that need people like us. And I truly believe that. So if you're a great person, a good heart, a teacher, a doctor, like anybody who's just like, even, you know, everyday professions, like anything at all. Joe, like in the car salesman, you know, dealership, finance world, like, yes, like we need better people controlling the real estate so that like it's in great hands. And so like people have wonderful places to live is really what I'm trying to say there. Because I think about some of the rundown properties that we have bought and how beautiful we made them. And the cool part too, if you think about it, is once that you buy the property and you did need to fix it up, like you now are, or you're buying it. So now you're paying an attorney. So you're putting food on his family's table. You're paying a contractor, maybe an electrician, the carpet guy, the paint, the list goes on and on and on. Like, how many people's lives are you affecting? And then let's say you walk away from your W-2, if that's your goal, and now you grow your team, and now you have employees, and now you're like helping them, right? And so when you start thinking really big like that, stuff starts like getting really crazy and exciting, I think. So just know that it's like one house, one single family home, one property could literally change your life. And I don't know, I love thinking about like anybody at all could do this. And I love to, we've had a stay-at-home mom in our coaching program a couple years ago. She was literally having baby number 5 and locked up a 10 unit from our simple strategy that we give away for free on our Facebook page, on our Creative Finance Playbook website. You go and post onto Facebook groups how you can buy properties. And so that was a way of like her being able to make some extra additional income while her husband, who was working in a car dealership, was gone all day, you know, and here she was. Some kids were in school, baby on the way, boom, locking up deals. You know, what could $10,000 do? You know, you just never know. So I just love this topic so much because if I know people say it all the time, but if I could do it, you can too, right? Like I could easily look at Joe and say, oh, like, of course you know how to do it. You know all about sales and you're really great with numbers and you even understand how banks work and all of that. You don't need to know any of that. If you have the extra skill set, cool, apply it. But I would say 80% he learned. I would say he came with about 20% of knowledge that was really useful for this, but then like 80% of it, I maybe came with like 5%. And the rest was all learning by doing, learning through my mentors, learning through the right paperwork and the processes and all of that. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's totally possible. So if you are looking for that change, if you're looking for something extra, like, man, real estate has got to be it. And on a side note, if you love to shop, because who doesn't? I don't know. I do. I started shifting my mindset of like, because I don't know about you guys, but if you notice on Instagram, especially, or anywhere else, these influencers, I get it. Everybody needs to make a buck, but how many of these cups do you need? How many pairs of shoes? How many pairs of jeans from Walmart? Like, it's just insane, right? So instead of buying all that random stuff that you're just going to have to donate anyway, or you're going to end up throwing it out because it's fast fashion, turn it into rental properties, right? Like go to Zillow, like you're hopping on, I don't know, Macy's.com or something, whatever people shop at, or even Amazon, right? Like go to Zillow, or better yet, go to Facebook groups, go talk to people that have houses for sale and buy properties as if you were looking for a new pair of shoes. Okay. I'm telling you, if you just have a little bit of shift of mindset, like, okay, I want to go shopping, like I want a new house. So try that out. A little bit of mindset hack, but I love it. So creativefinanceplaybook.com, grab our how to score free leads. It is there for you to download. And if you use it, don't change it. And if you sign up for our emails, you're going to get our script, those 10 questions that we ask every single seller. Don't skip the order. Really, really important on that. And if you love what you're hearing and you want more content like this, make sure you comment below, hit that subscribe button, and let us know what you're looking for. We're here for you guys. So until next time, I'll talk to you later.